What's silver price looking like 10 years from now? Opinions?
I think technology will play a large role in the answer to that question.
I mean, 10 years is a long period of time, and a lot of things are going to happen in 10 years. I really see the metals going up over time.
New to buying gold or silver? SD Bullion makes it simple with no order minimums, clear pricing, and discreet shipping. Trusted by hundreds of thousands. SDBullion.com, where America buys physical gold and silver.
Not too much silver in the case today. If people saw the video a few days ago, they already know it's pretty light right now.
Yeah, it's been a buying frenzy, but you know, silver's on sale, so it's a good time to buy.
You know what? We do have a bunch of questions that were user submitted.
Okay.
And maybe we'll ask you the first one, Adrian.
Sure.
So they say, I'm glad silver is dropping. I hope it keeps going down so we can buy more. Is it worth buying government coins versus rounds when the price is lower?
Well, it just depends on the premium. Just because the price of silver is lower doesn't mean that the premiums are always going to follow. It just depends on where you're buying it from. But if the premium is close enough that you're comfortable with it, I would say go for the government ounce.
So for example, here at Harry's Coin Shop, we've got silver rounds and bars, spot plus $2, government ounces, spot plus $4. So whether or not the price is rising or falling, it's always going to be cheaper to get the rounds.
Yeah, you're going to get the most silver for your money, but it just depends on what your stacking goals are and what you're trying to accomplish with it. If you're just trying to get the most amount of ounces for your money and you don't care about divisibility or the resale as much, then, you know, buy 1,000-ounce bar, buy 100-ounce silver bar.
Well, one thing I will say is that today there's not that much silver in the case. So if you wanted government ounces, you've got like 10 coins to choose from here. And then if you want rounds, there's a lot of different choices. So you're probably going to end up having to go with the rounds.
I see how it is, but yeah, that's the rounds. Yeah, you're going to get the most silver for your money. That's, that's a good way to look at it.
Harry, I'm going to ask you the next question here. They say, what's silver price looking like 10 years from now? Opinions?
I have no idea. I hope I'm here to answer that question in 10 years, so truly no idea.
You know what I will say, Harry, is I started stacking almost 10 years ago now.
Okay.
And when I started buying silver, it was $16 an ounce. So now it's in the 60s. You know, we saw it go all the way up to 120. As far as my experience, it's been trending higher.
I think technology will play a large role in the answer to that question. If this technology, for instance, for these solid-state batteries come to fruition and it's a successful entity, then I think you'll see a greater demand in an industrial sense for silver, and that could drive the price higher. And world events that are unforeseeable now could certainly drive it as well.
What do you think, Adrian? 10 years from now, is silver higher, lower? I mean, has it gone to zero?
Well, here's the thing, like we've talked about, year over year, silver tends to move in an upward trajectory. Not necessarily immediately, but we've seen it go from, it was a few dollars, back in the day to now touching over $120 an ounce, and we're settling around that $66 mark. It's just everything else seems to be affected by inflation. And I don't think silver is going to escape that. We use so much silver in everything that we do, medical supplies, electronics, and there's just, I don't see silver being used in less items. I see it being used in more items as technology keeps increasing. I mean, think of all these data centers and all these things that are being used with AI. There's just so much silver and gold that's being used, and I don't see it stopping anytime soon. So if anything, I feel like there's going to be a lot of upwards pressure on the precious metals.
Yeah, just for me personally, like I was telling Harry, it's gone up about 4 times since I started stacking. So if we see that move again in the next 10 years, we're looking at $250, maybe $300 silver. I certainly think that's possible. I think it could go that high.
If you would have told me this maybe a year or 2 years ago, I'd be like, yeah, I would be cautiously optimistic. I'd be like, wow, maybe $70, $80 an ounce, right? But we saw this huge move of $120 an ounce. I mean, that to me tells me that there's so much room for silver to go. And even gold, we saw it touch $5,500 an ounce, which seems so out of reach, just even a few years ago. So, 10 years is a long period of time, and a lot of things are going to happen in 10 years. I really see the metals going up over time.
Yeah, me too.
Hey, one thing I wanted to quickly mention is that Father's Day is right around the corner, and the Stacker Vaults are now on sale. This is the biggest sale that they've ever done. 15% off your stacker vaults when you buy them online. There will be a link down below in the description. So if you want to protect your silver from tarnishing, from air or moisture, and you also want to store it nicely and be able to move it around easier, the stacker vaults are what we like to use. Again, the link is down below in the description. Pick one up for you or for a father this Father's Day.
Well, the next question has to do with gold. They say, why is gold more valuable than silver? Serious question. Silver is a better conductor and it's more useful.
Well, it comes down to the scarcity of the metal. There's a lot less gold than there is silver.
Yeah.
So that's one of the major things I would say. Gold is also a good conductor of electricity, but it's just been used as jewelry for thousands of years. It's a very malleable metal. I mean, it's a pretty inert metal as well. There's no affecting gold where as silver it'll tarnish and so on, but pure gold it stays in its form.
And you know what else? It's just prettier. It's prettier than any other metal that I can think of. It's just, there's something about that color. Like when platinum was worth more than gold, even me personally, I had no interest in it. To me, it looked like expensive silver. There's almost like at the genetic level, a feel for humans for the beauty and the weight and the usefulness of gold. There's just something emotional even about it that it's hard to explain. If you look back in biblical times, gold and silver were valued probably about the same, and a lot of that had to do with how easy it was to access, how easy it was to mine it or to find it. Over time, they've split off and become far apart in value, but at one time they were actually very close in value.
Yeah, now silver is mined about 8 times more often than gold. So that does make sense for some of the separation in price. But right now, gold is like 65 times more valuable than silver. So I don't know what accounts for that.
I can't say for certain, but one of the things is it's who's buying it. We have central banks buying up the gold, governments buying up the gold, and that creates scarcity. And so that certainly has fed into the spread between gold and silver for sure.
All right, Harry, so this next question, they say, okay, so how much could you realistically get for an ounce of silver if it goes to 200? Because it ain't going to be $200, that's for sure.
Typically in this business, as the price goes up, the premiums go down. So actually, I think if it was on a tear up to 200, you probably would find it that you could sell it for a lot closer to spot, let's say, than you can now, because there'd be this perception that it's going a lot higher and we better get some. But it's hard to say. I mean, these are all hypothetical things, but usually, regardless of the price of the metal, you're not going to get spot at a coin shop or from a wholesaler for the metal.
Yeah, if I had to guess, I would say if you get into that territory of being a couple $100s an ounce, I would say that we'll probably move to a percentage base back of spot, kind of how gold is. So I would expect about a 10 to 15% discount being at $200 an ounce.
So maybe you get $180 for your silver.
Yeah, I would think so. I mean, that's what's happened in the past with the wholesalers. So I would predict the same thing. You got to remember, there was also a time where the wholesalers weren't even buying it at that point. So
true.
And that had to do with a backlog and a supposed lack of acid to assay the silver. But it would be interesting to see what the market does and also what comes out of it.
All right, I think it's only appropriate that we look at some constitutional silver for this next question. So they ask, but if the dollar collapsed, who determines what a silver coin costs? What do you think, Harry? I mean, what would silver be worth if there were no dollars, if it goes to zero?
Well, you're talking an apocalyptic question. When if there's no dollars, what is there? What's the average person going to use as a mode of exchange? Even though we're all a bunch of stackers in these channels, the truth is the vast majority of the public owns no gold or silver. So if the dollar were to collapse, what would they use as a mode of exchange? It's a hard question to answer. I always go back to barter being the thing that people will use. I have something you need, you have something I need, we work out a deal. I am, for one, not a believer in an imminent collapse of the dollar. I think the dollar would be the last currency on earth to be gone. But these are fun questions, but I don't think we're ever going to see that.
So in the hypothetical sense, the silver would just be worth whatever people are willing to trade for it.
Yeah, just like what's a handful of bullets worth or what's a can of beans worth. I mean, it's worth what you're willing to give up for it.
All right, the next question is about gold, and pre-33 gold actually ties in really well. So they say, what makes you sure the history with gold from 1933 won't repeat? It worked once, it will work again, or with silver or any other metal.
Well, here's the thing to remember. In 1933, it was an executive order for people to turn in their gold, but they didn't come knocking door to door asking for people's gold. There was a couple people that they opened their safety deposit boxes and wanted to make an example of them. But I mean, look at how much pre-33 gold is around now, even here in the United States. I know a lot of it went to Europe. I wouldn't say it worked because it's still around. There was that mandate there, but I don't think people really complied. And I think now it would be a lot harder to get more people to comply to gold confiscation.
Also, the dollar was backed by gold back then, but now it's not. So what reason would they have to take everyone's gold?
Yeah, so I guess what the commenter might be thinking is if we go back to a gold standard, I find that very far-fetched, because to go back on a gold standard, we need a lot of gold to be able to print the money that it's backing, right? So I just don't see us, with the amount of money that we're spending as a country, regardless of party, regardless of anything, we're just overspending and spending so much money that it just would not be in the best interest of the country to go on a gold-backed currency.
What do you think, Harry? Would they ever try and confiscate the gold again?
I don't think so. You got to remember, the U.S. government is now in the bullion business. They're the biggest seller of gold and silver bullion with the Eagle programs of any dealer in the country. They're part of the problem if they consider that a problem. The other thing is, like Adrian said, because our currency is not backed in gold or silver, what purpose would it serve to confiscate the gold?
I agree with that, Harry. And actually, I can answer the next question. They say, where is Harry's shop? What's the address? And we've got your card right here. A lot of people ask this from time to time. It is in Beaverton, Oregon. You got the phone number right there and Harry's email as well.
I just want to remind everyone that 3 weeks ago we started opening up on Saturdays again. Brief hours, but nonetheless, we're here from 8 a.m. till noon every Saturday. Thank you.
Harry, this next question I found really interesting. They say, why do dealers ask for ID to purchase silver in person? You guys have never done that here at this shop, have you?
No, but some states do require ID when you're selling to them. It's just going to be on a state by state or maybe even municipality by municipality regulations that they're complying with.
But in Oregon, you don't require any type of ID if someone wants to buy from you, right? I mean...
Oh, buy from us? No, not at all. The only exception to that is this. The federal anti-money laundering law requires that any cash purchase over $10,000 has to be accompanied by a Form 8300 to comply with the Patriot Act and the anti-money laundering laws. But other than that, there's no ID required.
Okay, that makes sense. And the next question here, does Harry have any opinion on copper? What do you think, Harry? We always talk about gold and silver. What about stacking copper?
I mean, in terms of mathematics, it probably makes sense because copper has been going up in value just the same as gold and silver in the last year or so. But the problem with copper is the space it takes up for the value that you have, and frankly, the weight of it. Stacking it from a practical standpoint isn't real workable. Though, if you have a warehouse and you have plenty of ways to lift it and move it around, it's a good investment, probably as good as silver.
You know, one thing I just realized is that most of us stackers, we actually do stack copper, but kind of on accident, because we're buying 90% silver, and this all has 10% copper in it. So we kind of are all copper stackers.
Good point, but yeah, not overtly.
Yeah.
I had somebody the other day that was buying a Krugerrand, and they were just like trying to make up their mind on it, and they're like, well, I was like, I want to buy an ounce of gold. I'm like, well, you got to think of it if it's something that you want, but if you think on the stacking perspective of it, you're getting an ounce of gold and you're getting some copper. You're getting a bonus.
Not easily divisible, but yes.
So between these two coins here, the one on the left is pure gold. It's 24 karat. That one is going to weigh exactly an ounce, but the one on the right, because it's 22 karat, is going to weigh more than an ounce.
Yeah, you get some free copper. Not a lot, but hey, I mean, that's why it looks a little bit more of that rose gold color. If you want to stack copper, that's a good way to expose
And
yourself.
I thought I was a good salesman.
To a little bit of copper.
Adrian's the best.
Now, if you want to buy an American Gold Eagle, you get some silver and some copper.
That's true.
So that's why it's one of my favorites.
Yeah. A few more questions here. This one they ask, isn't it illegal to melt down U.S. coinage?
Currently, the only coins that are illegal to melt are the cent and the nickel, because they're still in circulation. I think the cent is going to go away soon. I think you'll be able to melt that soon. And when that happens, I think you'll have difficulty finding pre-1982 pennies out there.
Yeah, and just a heads up on that, don't try to be smart and melt the copper U.S. pennies, because the alloy mix of the penny is specific to the penny. You don't want to get a knock on the door from one of the government agencies for melting the pennies.
They'll know what you're doing.
Yes. Yeah, they'll know exactly what's going on.
And then Harry, similar to the copper one, this person asks, I'm curious what Harry's opinion is on platinum.
It's a precious metal. It's not my favorite, and it's nothing rational. It's just, I think it looks like silver, and it's a lot more expensive. So more seriously, we don't see much demand for platinum in the shop. We seldom buy it and seldom have anyone looking for it. But I think it's a valid investment if that's what you like. I know Richard is a connoisseur of platinum, and he stacks platinum more than all of us do.
Well, Harry, I always enjoy when we can do sort of these Q&As, and I would just ask people if they have any other questions they want you to answer, maybe put them down below in the comments section.
Yeah, it's fun answering them. I don't have all the answers. Adrian does, but we do our best to try to answer them for you.
I really appreciate the time, Harry. Thank you.
Betcha.
Thanks a lot, Adrian.
Thank you.